already had that happen online. Of course, I tell myself it's control and they're not really going to follow it. But so I know that that's going to happen to people that are involved in the organization. And she said that basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? But she said, you know, the thing is that when you're starting an organization like this, it would go a long way toward trust, building trust, if people were transparent and said, you know what, I don't care about these things because I believe so much in the process. So I'm going to say I did donate, and as soon as the last person donated, and it doesn't have to be the little, you know, under $1,000, but the last person that did donate over a certain amount says, I donated, and you guys can check through it, say, yeah, well, everybody that did donate came out on their own, but is transparent, and that would go a long way towards doing.
I also think that if you're trying to reform the system, I think that if you, I just think that if someone's trying to reform something, they should do everything to reform it. Like, no, we're not going to be secretive. We're not going to do this. Like, this. Like, you're going to reform it all the way. I don't think that you should just go halfway and then just have that.
That's a great belief and a great value. Just so you guys know, there are people who step up and do say that they give the money, and also there's people who don't, and it's their choice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, none of us can control how somebody else chooses to make that decision. So two things I want to do real quick, and just kind of introduce you guys to what's going to happen this afternoon. It needs to be mostly you guys talking to each other. The morning has really been about grounding and getting us all on the same page. Does it feel like we've gotten to that point? Just kind of a general yes or no, or is anything lacking? Yeah, we're like roughly on the same page. So what we're going to do this afternoon is a couple folks, there's several leaders, Peter and Andrea, and then some of the other folks are going to talk about things like the draft movement, how that works, and kind of actually go through some tactical stuff. And then we're going to do breakout groups where it's really just you guys taking this now and starting to run with it on your own and really start to lead in your own groups. And then we'll be going to dinner at Giuseppe's at 7? Right. Within the lobby.
I thought in Danville.
What's that?
The program said we were going to Danville for dinner.
So, I will take responsibility for completely messing up the schedule. The schedule is supposed to say that we're going to dinner tonight. We will be meeting in the lobby at 6. We're going to take the van, and then we also have some theaters doing meetings over there. It is at Giuseppe's in San Ramon. So in the program where it says Giuseppe's in San Ramon, that's where we're going, but we're going tonight. So, crucify me now.
Get the pitchfork.
That's right. Thank you all for being adaptable. Okay, any other questions on the agenda for this afternoon? Get them out of the way now. If you want to know what's going on. Cool. And I want to introduce Peter quickly. One thing that just came up, and I'd like to kind of, at certain points, I hope everyone will take a moment to share their story, their own personal story, with as many people as possible, because I think that's where a lot of, like you say, our power comes from. Alice, do you mind telling the 2-minute version of your story in terms of people?
Oh yeah,
People not necessarily
thinking 2 minutes.
Is that?
I was thinking 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
20 minutes, you said.
You still a 2-hour version of your story?
Yes. It sort of speaks to the transparency. I've spent 25 years in Democratic politics, in Democratic Party politics in California for the most part, but also in Florida and Mississippi and Michigan. When I decided, and I've been monitoring American Select since about 2010. My friend Michael Arno, Kellen's dad, Peter's brother, has his firm is handling the ballot access. And Michael and I have known each other a long time, and he was telling me about the organization as he was moving through this. And then earlier in 2011, he said to me, "This is going to be real. We're going to be on the ballot. The money is there. We're going to do this." In July, Kellen talked to me, and Michael did, about coming aboard to do field operations. They actually needed somebody old, is what they needed, that actually remembered a time where you had, rotary phones and push-button phones, and you didn't carry them with you, and if you did, they were huge. But how to do some just basic field work in addition to the online work that we're going to do. I began to tell my Democratic friends of what I was doing. I've lost a couple of friends. I've had some people tell me that I will not work in Democratic politics again. Retribution is real, I can assure you. And I'm not one of the consultants that's like the Mark McKinnons of the world that have made all of this money and can go, oh, screw you. This is actually how I made my living. And you know what? I don't like how the system is set up now, and I ran a state party. So 2 years ago, I sort of took a step back to decide whether or not I really wanted to continue in this. So it was sort of a convergence of things, of being really unhappy, of remembering when politics and campaigning was fun, and it actually stopped on election day, and then we allowed elected officials to make good decisions and good government for the whole. I tell somebody it's like a football game where I was accustomed to being one of the cheerleaders, is what state parties do, and it's what the national party is supposed to do. Unfortunately, I think now the cheerleaders are playing the game, and the football players are just there with their hands out. They're not really doing much. So, despite the friendships lost and probably the lack of employment in Democratic politics, this was just the right thing to do. And that's all. That's what it comes down to. If my political career is actually going to end, I would like for it to end with this. And I can go do other things. I guess I could do what Jake does. Actually, I'd like to marry money. So if anybody and I got to tell you, I really appreciate the college team, the members that are here. I spent 3 days with them in St. Louis earlier this month. And that's what I remember politics being about. Some energy, some optimism, not being cynical, but really going out and doing something. And I really get a lot of energy from them. And I look around this room, and this is what I've said in pretty much all the conferences, keeping in mind I spent 25 years in Democratic politics. This is the largest group of white men I've seen in one room at a political function. So, thank you. Actually, older white men. If you've ever been to a Democratic function, you would understand. So, is that more or less my 2 minutes?
It's all that and more and better. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you one of the paid staff members from American Elect?
Yeah.
So you're still
Well, no, I mean, not like, I work for APC, our political consultants, because they have the field contract. But yes, I'm employed at the moment. So we have to be successful people. Just have to. Yeah.
I got an email about this Nigerian prince, and I'm sure that you might be interested.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you just have a thank you so much.
It's kind of hard not to listen to Alice, isn't it?
She also does weddings.
Yes, I do. I'm the national engagement.
I mean, how powerful though is it when you hear somebody say, if my career has to end, I want it to end with this. I've been doing this for 25 years, this is what I know. I've lost friends, but I'm doing this because I believe in it, it's the right thing to do. You know? So, awesome story. Similarly awesome story, Peter Arno is going to come up and talk a little bit about, I'll let you tell them what you're going to talk about. Peter is one of the reasons you guys are here today, so give him some attention.
Yeah, Peter.
First of all, just a few logistical issues. So just so we understand, for dinner tonight, we're going to meet at 6 o'clock downstairs. Everybody understands that? We'll have a couple of buses, a couple of vans. We'll bring everybody to Giuseppe's. Giuseppe's is only a couple miles away. It works out real easy. If you have any dietary needs, please let us know, both either me or Andrew. Okay? And also, I want to make sure that you're all reimbursed. Anybody who had a travel, got a flight or whatever, I want to make sure that that's arranged. So what I want to do is I want to hand these out, and you just pass them all around, and these are the forms you need to fill out. Okay? So So let's start that. Pass them on down the line. So while that's happening, the next section that we really want to deal with, which will go into the breakout sessions where you'll get into groups, is organizing. Organizing what we're going to do, how we're going to create our effort in this area. And you've all provided really quite a bit of input, actually, already, in what you'd like to see happen. The one thing that I could say here that could be added to this is what the definition is of what you are doing. And so we could take that back to a principle. What is the principle of Americans Elect, and what is the principle that you're doing? So there was when I was a very young man, there was somebody I greatly respected that told me, a great person can always take a very complex problem and distill it down into one common principle. And if you can take that one common principle and really analyze it, then you will answer all the questions that will arise from that principle. So let's do that as an exercise in the beginning. And I'd like to start with, what do you think Americans Elect is? We didn't discuss that in any of these, at least that I saw on any of these boards, unless I missed it. So I'd like some input from the group. What do you think Americans Elect is?
Restore political power to the people.
Restore political power to the people.
Democracy.
Democracy.
Well, I think it's kind of direct action, democracy. So we're not going for anyone. We are for it. We are the front line. We are with direct action. We are quite changing the way it being taught.
Right. These are actions. These are all things we're doing. We are going to create some direct democracy. We are going to do some restoration of our government system. How far back?
It's an alternate nominating process.
It's an alternate nominating process for president. There's the principle. That is what we're doing. But are we politics or are we government? For government. That's correct. And the more that we go to that one principle, the fact that we're reorganizing the government by creating a new nominating system, in this case for president, the more we are very clear about what our definition is. If we understand that we're government, then we come together as a unit. Because this is something I heard a lot in the morning, we the people, constantly. And also, the whole principle behind this conference was for us to become unified together so that we can make an impact. So if we work on a political basis, we could take all of our political views and put them together, and we could probably argue ad nauseum about what we would like to see happen politically. However, if we want to discuss what we'd like to see in the government, then we're all together in one unit. We work together to be able to change government. Government does what? Government should take care of the people, but not necessarily does take care of the people, right? Government manages politics. Government is what the people have organized to manage their politics. So when we look at it, for me, I'm talking about this every day, constantly, day in, day out. And almost all the arguments that I received, and many of the arguments that I saw here previously presented, was that they were really of a political nature. For one, we're a third party. We're not a third party. That's actually a misnomer. It needs to be thrown out. When anyone states that we're a third party, they're incorrect. Actually, we're also not a political organization in any way. We're an organization that's reorganizing government and bringing rights to people through government. So when we want to look at how we unify people, when you see government, everybody's unified together. And when everybody's unified together, what does that do? It creates the maximum amount of power of the sum total of all the people gathered together. And actually, that's a law of physics. You can take any aspect of physics. The sun has greater energy than the earth. And the universe has greater energy than the sun. So the more that we gather together, certainly there's always a center issue. There's always a center point to every single gathering. But it's the gathering that creates the power. It's the mass that creates the power. So when you look at a government organization, you then have the mass. The more that we can look at it that way, the more we can talk about it that way, the more we see it that way, we're all together as a unit, no matter what our viewpoints are, whether it's politics or religion or whatever. We can all come together and we can agree as Americans on that. So when we're speaking about Americans elect, we can be speaking about it in terms of educating others about the government system. No longer trying to be a proponent for a political system or a system of politics, or being in sales. We're not in internet marketing sales either. We're educators. And I can tell you that very few people understand what Americans elect is. Very, very, very few. I say it's 1 out of 15. Okay? I say 1 out of 15 that I talk to understands Americans elect. I've had professors from the University of Oregon call me up and say, what do you mean you're bringing representation to the people? We already have that. Yeah. So it's actually really a tall order that we're going to go out and do. And we are going to go out and do it if we stay unified. If we work together, we will do that. And we have the means to do that, and that's what this next section is really all about. So we have divided up the sections of education, of how we will educate people about Americans elect into different divisions. And we call this the Rapid Response Team. So the Rapid Response Team has internet communications. This is incredibly important. Then it has letters to the editor, answering political messages that are out there. I've written them. I don't know how many of the rest of you have written them, but responses. Then we have meetups. This is the event planning. Different section again. Third section. Then we have what's the fourth section to it? Outreach. Outreach would be the same as meetup. So we have those different divisions, and we need to be able to work in a cohesive unit to actually maximize those different divisions. So how many people do you think are in Americans Elect right now?
200.
How many people
all
have
together
signed up on Americans Elect?
500.
signed up as delegates?
Yes.
It's about, I looked at it, I looked online.
450,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like 460 last time I looked, 465.
What do you think we have to do to be successful? I mean, successful, I'm going to use that in a liberal term. How many?
60 million.
60 million. Another one? Another guess?
What's
the tipping point?
The tipping point.
The tipping point. You know, what's going to actually...
Like, so that everybody's
So everybody knows.
Well, percentage-wise, like what would it be?
Yeah, that's like
5 million.
I'm just going to use it as a loose term. To create a tipping point, what do you think is required? What's your vision of what's required?
You get 1% of the population.
1% of the population. Yeah, see, so this is our goal. And we're not really totally clear on what our goal is. So this is the point, this is the part of, this part of the discussion is about the goal. So I'm gonna say let's look at 1.5 million. Let's just see if we can maybe triple the number that we have right now. With this group right here. Do you think that's possible?
Yes.
I think so too. I definitely think that that's possible. If we organize together as a unit, we can do that. Just with this group. And I'm not talking about the rest of the groups that got together in their own conferences. But I'm going to say that we need to outreach to them and we need to gather together with them too. If we want to make this work, the more together we are, the more unified we are, the more powerful we will be. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to go through a couple of different presentations. One's going to be about social media, because I think that without social media, I think we all agree social media is going to be one of the most important avenues for us to be able to understand. And then we're also going to discuss letters to the editor and other media aspects that need to be addressed. Okay? And then we're going to get together in groups, and I want you all to discuss what your ideas are, and then we're going to nominate one person, and they're going to give a presentation from each group about what you come up with your own personal ideas of what you think you can go forward and do yourself. Because one of the things that we came back with from the morning was American Select is really about you. I heard people say all kinds of things about the national team. Well, the national team did this, and believe me, the national team doesn't have that much to say about it. They gave it to us. And that's the part that no one can understand, because you've never had that. No one's ever received that in this country. You've never had these rights, ever. And neither has anyone else in America. And for us to be able to gather those rights and actually earn them, we have to make it happen, not the national team. The national team is just a couple people. And all I have to say about them is I would truly like to thank them for having the guts to give this to us. Because believe me, it took a lot of guts to be able to do what they're doing. And to endure major criticism from every single corner of American politics and the American people. And all of us who work with American Select, we endure it too. Yeah. That's just the way that it is. That's what politics is about. And if you become involved, you will be too. You will also be criticized for your beliefs. But as long as you continue to go back to truth, to go back to what you believe is the essence of what American Select is, a new government system that brings more rights to people, that brings direct representation to people, nobody will argue with that. If you divert yourself from that at all, then you have argument. And as soon as you have argument, you have confrontation. I'm going to say I've heard a bunch of, a bunch of people from my group said, I want you to talk about this, and I want you to talk about that. And some of the things that I heard were, from my group in the Northwest, nonviolence. American Select is the most perfect form of nonviolence. Do you think that's true?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Why not?
Well, so far I feel almost completely alienated here.
Uh-huh.
And you may laugh, and you may find that funny, but I've been honest from the very beginning. And already I feel alienated. So your sense of unity is not landing on ripe ears yet. But it can grow. It's possible. You need to interject a little bit more truth and less Orwellian concepts of unity.
And the truth in terms of?
The truth in terms of what this is all about.
Which is?
Buying political access.
Buying political access, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yes, then we're buying it for the people of America.
Do two wrongs make a right? That's my question.
I think that
I don't see it as buying.
Is the perfect example of how we're following respect, because there's been some conflict here. The dialogue between you and others has been one of respect, and even though there's been disagreements, this shows how we can pull together as a unit and still have these disagreements. I thought that the exchange between you and the others was handled professionally by you and was handled professionally by everybody else. And this makes me feel good about the prospects of us working together when we really come into some conflicting views when one person wants this candidate and the other person wants that candidate. So I think this has been productive.
Yes?
I would say that we also have to work within the system. I mean, we can't create our own new laws and new things. We have to work within the system as it exists. Mm-hmm. And so...
So you think we have to buy political access?
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
What do you mean?
I'm saying we have to, like, ballot access, for example, and it varies from state to state, but each state has their own laws set up. You can't get on the ballot by not obeying those laws. You have to obey the laws.
Right.
So you have to confine to the rules as they are.
I think the question that really needs is, what do you mean by buying ballot access? I think
when you pay for signatures, you buy ballot access.
Are you talking about we're paying people off to sign for us?
You're paying people to collect signatures.
Yeah,
but they're not being, the people that are signing are not getting paid.
Are the people?
I think that is a defining point right there.
Are the people that are signing fully aware that there's a two-tier process of selection?
The initial question was if this is a nonviolent movement, and you said you filled out that, which I apologize
Well, that's okay.
But
I just want to be
it's still
honest.
not violent.
No, it's not violent at all. But I mean,
Just
it
as long
could
as
lead to
they-
nonviolence when you alienate groups of people from your discussion.
Could if it goes out fast and shoots back.
Sure, that's where violence starts.
But I just want to get back to
Okay,
Right.
sure.
Nonviolent, yes.
Wait a minute, who's alienating who? You just said.
I just said I feel alienated.
Okay, because just
It's a
before you
personal
just said if you alienate
Okay, so I'm going
people.
to change this again now for just a minute, okay? So this is exactly where we go to where we get divisive, okay?
Well,
So
actually, I don't
just-
feel that way. I don't feel that way, though. That's not where I'm coming from.
No, I know, but let's take the understanding of nonviolence to another level.
All Americans, right?
We are all Americans. Yeah. But let's take it to another end, because nonviolence is an understanding. This is something you have to earn. It's not something that comes seemingly naturally. So what creates nonviolence?
Alienation.
Agreement. Acceptance. Okay. Acceptance.
No.
And understanding, but acceptance creates understanding.
Inclusiveness.
And inclusiveness, right. These are all points of agreement. All points of acceptance.
All inclusive.
And also, right, correct, knowledge. So knowledge, combined with acceptance, gives us the ability to be able to educate and it empowers us. Without the knowledge, we don't have the ability to be able to present Americans Elect. And I'm also going to say the people that put Americans Elect together, they also had knowledge too. And yes, far
So I
back.
didn't even get to say that.
I'm a bit confused. I like the point of when it said, what's Americans Elect? It is a non-for-profit organization developed to provide an alternate method for presidential nomination.
Correct.
Okay. Would you say that's, when asked by other people, that's kind of our standard succinct response?
Absolutely.
But you then went on to talk about government. And how do those two...
Because that is a system of government that is providing that whole process. It's not politics. It's government that provides that process.
But you're not government.
No, we are not government, but we are talking about a new system of government.
But do we want to really... I mean, I don't know why you need to bring in government.
The reason why I bring in government is because I remove it from politics. Because politics actually is very, very divisive. When we say divide, what goes with divide? Divide and
conquer.
Right. Okay. So when you have politics, you are divided and you are right. So when you have a government that's for the people, you are united. United. And that's the reason why I bring in government for this. We are in system of government. And for those of us who are involved in writing articles and answering people that talk about Americans Elect, we are constantly going to the point that this is about government. It is not about politics. It's not how you feel we're a third party and we're going to swing the election to somebody else named Obama, or we're going to swing it in the form of Romney. These politicians will come and go, just like many politicians have come and gone in the past. But our Constitution always remains. It's about government. Yes?
I'm wondering if you should say a system of governance, system of government, because government has kind of a meaning that's pejorative in a sense. But governance is really kind of authority.
Right.
Government implies like an authoritative power.
Right.
We're
All right.
or disseminating the power.
Right. Okay. Governance. I like that.
I think the question we were getting an answer to him is, if my understanding is that we are paying people to go out and collect signatures because they need to pay for their time. They've got their own bills, they've got their own stuff that they get paid for.
Yeah.
But as far as I understand, we're not actually paying people for their signatures.
As long as you're forthright about what you're doing, and it's going to be a two-tiered system of selection, not a democratic process, that's great. But if it's not written there in the petition that those people signed, that's a break in trade policy.
And do we have an answer? Is that written in? Do we know if that's written in?
No, it's not always written in.
That's the problem. And that's why we're fighting for an open, even access point where everyone has the same click-throughs to get nominated, to get in the election process.
I would say that you have to earn that.
Well,
and I think that it's more than money. Actually, you brought up money previously in the past as a limitation, and I'll say money's no limitation.
Well,
did Mahatma Gandhi put together a budget for his political campaign? No, he didn't. He went forward on truth. And if you have that, and you understand that to its bottom line core, to its exact principle, then you will be victorious.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So who's heard of SOPA?
Yeah.
SOPA, right? The fact that you've heard of like, who has studied internet policy? Well, large, bizarre.
This is near Silicon Valley. You realize that, right?
Right. Well, in general, most people have not heard of most internet policy related things, right? It's not something that most people pay a lot of attention to. Yeah, it's in San Francisco for sure. So, most of us have heard about SOPA, though, because it became something that a lot of people got very passionate about. I'm in D.C. I talk to a lot of lobbyists. I know a lot of lobbyists. This is an issue around which they did everything exactly the way you're supposed to do it. The lobbyists in Washington did everything that they were supposed to do, from the telecoms to the, you name it. They did everything. They had the right parties for the right congressmen and everybody that they were supposed to have lined up, and they lost. They spent all of the right amounts of money. They did everything, and they totally have lost.
Not yet.
Not yet. But let's put it this way. They're losing so far, and you can quantifiably go from day to day, entirely because of groups of people speaking up and being very passionate and using tools like social media and everything else. Actually organizing rallies on the ground, using the internet to get off the internet. There was technologists marching up and down Madison Avenue in New York with laptops saying it's no longer okay for Congress not to know how the internet works, right? These are people who have never gotten out and protested in their lives. But that happened without hardly any money at all being spent to kind of get those people to organize, right? So,
But you actually said hardly any money at all. You realize how many servers fought SOPA?
What's that?
You realize how much money went into fighting SOPA?
Sure. In terms of organizing,
but it was a volunteer effort, though. It was a volunteer effort.
Yeah.
That was financed initially.
Let's put it this way. I wasn't paid anything to oppose SOPA. I wasn't paid $1, right? And I was totally for it.
Yeah.
Right? And
No, I'm against SOPA, but I agree with everything's funded in this political environment. Unfortunately,
let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in.
But when you talk about Gandhi and money in the same sentence, do you realize the complete disproportionate separation you're dealing with? I mean, it's just so crazy to even put Gandhi in the same sentence as money.
Correct.
It's sick.
That's right.
It's disgusting.
Yes.
It is despicable to take a person who's dedicated to nonviolent resistance and put that concept out there as an Orwellian concept and then unite the people under a monetary system to do this with money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's bring it all back to a common goal here. We talked about a common goal. A common goal was to bring this to 1.5 million people, and we all agreed that we thought that we could put that together, regardless of any of the limitations that are involved, right? So that's our plan for this afternoon. You are all responsible to make that plan happen, along with the rest of us, okay? And I hope that we'll have some fun doing it. Let's create a revolution. But when we create that revolution, we're going to do it non-violently. We're going to use our brains, we're going to use our knowledge, and we're going to go out and we're going to present it to everybody else. And believe me, you are the 1% of the 1% with brains, who are able to think without the conditioning that allows you to be able to understand what American Select really is. So we have different divisions I want to talk about. We have rapid response. In the rapid response section, we're going to have one section that comes up right now that's going to be on social media. Then we're going to do another one that's going to be more around letters to the editor and this sort of thing. And I want to interject just one other aspect because I want you to be aware that this is coming. We're going to do a draft candidate movement through the whole country. It's who you want to see as a candidate. And it's going to go through all the different divisions. And this is what's going to bring us all together. We're going to have some national discourse on this event. I want you all to be prepared for it coming up. So this is actually what's going to put the personality, it's going to put the politics in our governance, which is Americans elect. Those are two really different things. We're going to add those two things, and that's what's going to drive people to understand what Americans elect is. Because for most people, talking about government isn't going to be exciting enough. You need a candidate. You need candidates. You want your candidate. Okay? So I want you to be aware of that. And Bill, you're going to talk about the draft committees. So this is also going to be the other really important aspect that I want you to understand in this afternoon before we go into the groups. Yeah?
So I would like to posit that I guess nonviolence to me means a lack of forceful coercion, which also might include censorship. So I don't know if there's a way to limit the amount of censorship or coercion in any political system, but that's something that I would like to strive for.
I would look at that as being a goal. I mean, what's the goal of the best government possible to you?
In my perception, government has always been really meant to hold the balance points in society. The essence of what true government is supposed to be, the true spirit of it, is to hold the balance points in society to be optimal for everyone, that no one overpowers anyone else.
Okay, that's a good one. Anybody else? To me, the greatest form of government provides the greatest freedom to humankind. But everybody has their own opinion, okay? Americans elect is not a solid form of government. It is something that's being added potentially to our government. And you all will be the ones that will make that happen. So I'd like to turn over to, I think, Bill, you're going to be the next one up. Thank you very much for...
My name is Bill Johnson. I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm just a grassroots supporter. And I think that we've learned up till now that we're kind of divided into two groups. You have the management, and then you have the grassroots. And the management can't take any political stance. They can't support any candidate. They can't support any particular issue. They're only putting the vehicle in place so that our candidates can have access to all 50 states. And getting ballot access in all 50 states is a monumental process, and they're doing a great job on that, but it is up to us to excite the masses. And it's in my opinion, I believe that the most important vehicle we have to be able to get people involved is the draft committees. Because if we draft a candidate, and you don't even need to know who the candidate doesn't need to know you don't even know them. But if you draft a candidate, that will bring all of his supporters to check out the website, and they will join. And that's why it's good to get very large candidates with large name recognitions and small minor party candidates. The more you bring in, the more people will be involved. And I would like to see, personally, there to be 100 or more candidates and draft committees vying to get the top 6 slots. Now, I have kind of studied this for several months. I first read about America's Elect in a newspaper article, and when I read that, I said, oh, I kind of like this. And so I jumped in with both feet, and I thought, well, how is the best way to get this thing going? And I thought about draft candidates, draft committees. Now, just kind of as an aside, I noticed that there is Betty White is a 90-year-old woman. She's everywhere, on TV and on talk shows and things like that. Well, she was everywhere when I was a kid in the 1960s. And she's a widow, and her husband was Alan Ludden. Did anybody know who Alan Ludden was? Who was he?
From Password.
Password. And the way that they did it in Password is you had teams. And one teammate would take a look at a word to come and try to get the other person to guess it. It was like General William Tecumseh Sherman, you'd say, who was a Civil War general. They'd say Sherman's, and then the candidate would say march, or Sherman's march to the sea when he went to Atlanta and destroyed the city. But if you're a political aficionado like Peter Arno, if you said Sherman's, you might not get Sherman's march. You might get Sherman's pledge. And have any of you heard, you know what Sherman's pledge is? It's you guys will know it when you hear it, but in the 1886 election, you had Grover Cleveland was the Democratic candidate, who was Ron Paul's favorite president. Then you had James C. Blaine, who was the Republican candidate. But a lot of people wanted to get General William Tecumseh Sherman to be the candidate. And this is what his response was, and it became the pledge for a lot of candidates. It says, if drafted, I will not run. If nominated, I will not accept. If elected, I will not serve. Now, that's what we may have for a lot of these candidates. Now, it comes to mind, you have Buddy Roemer, who's the former former governor of Louisiana. He says, I want to be the American Select candidate. And then you have people say, Ron Paul. We want Ron Paul to run. And there are a lot of people out there that haven't even considered it. But if we draft them, and we put them on there, and we do preliminary votes, and if they come in part of the final 6, then they're either going to have to do the Sherman's pledge, or they're going to have to come on board, pick a vice presidential candidate from the other side, and then it'll go. Yes?
Do these people not have to sign the pledge in any way? At that point? If they're drafted, do they not have to sign the pledge?
If they're in the final 6, then they either have to fish or cut bait, or whatever the phrase is. They either have to pick a vice presidential candidate, sign the pledge, and go, or they're dropped out, and the next person down will get it. So there are a lot of people that come to mind from every political spectrum. Mayor Bloomberg. Somebody's going to do it for Mayor Bloomberg. Someone's going to do it for Ron Paul. Someone's going to do it for Donald Trump. There's going to be a lot of them out there. But the one thing that we need to realize is that there are 3 categories of candidates. There are candidates that are automatically qualified. There are candidates that are provisionally qualified. And there are candidates that don't qualify. Now look out here, half the people in this room would absolutely not qualify because they don't meet the constitutional requirements. They're under age 35. So you may think you want to run somebody, you think, oh, I love Governor Schwarzenegger as a governor. I want him to run for president. I'm going to do a draft committee for him. Well, he falls in the 3rd category. He doesn't constitutionally meet those qualifications. So you can't draft Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, the thing that the one candidate here has brought up over and over again, and we're going to have to discuss, is the 2-tier system, as he said. The automatically qualified candidates and the provisionally qualified candidates. Now, the framers of this system decided that they only want qualified candidates who have the same background of the previous presidents. And so they have a list of all of the various background positions that automatically qualify you as a candidate. First one, for example, is if you've been the vice president of the United States. Ever since John Adams, there have been vice presidents who become presidents. So if you've been a vice president before, then you automatically qualify to be president. So this should get your mind thinking, well, gee, someone should draft Dan Quayle. Somebody should draft Al Gore. And maybe they don't want to do it, but if you put the draft out there and they're in the final 6, that's going to generate a lot of interest and it'll make it a lot more legitimate. Then the next situation, the next one is if you've been a U.S. Senator or are a U.S. Senator. There are a lot of senators out there that have been toying with running, and I gave some thought, well, what senators would be good? Do any of you have any senators that you think should draft? Yes.
I think he's a governor now.
Well, we'll get to the governors. But I was thinking John Thune. Because John Thune, I met him when he was very tall. His daughters were beautiful. He's a senator from, I think, North Dakota or somewhere like that. He's toying right for president. Someone should draft him. Yes.
I was going to say Jack Reed.
Jack Reed. Okay.
Stoma Thurmond.
And then you may never even met Jack Reed, but you could fill it out and send it in. Then the next one that's automatically qualified is a member of Congress. And there's really only one president in the United States, in the history of the United States, that allows us, Americans elected, to decide that a congressman qualifies. Who's the only president that went from the House of Representatives to the president?
Lincoln.
No.
Gerald Ford.
No. Well, Gerald Ford indirectly. He went to vice president and the president. But there's one other. He had a beard. He was shot. He was killed. He was a minister.
Kennedy. No.
Garfield. There you go. You voted for Garfield, right? Okay, it was Garfield. So because of Garfield, then Montana can do a draft committee for Dennis Kucinich. Okay, then if we go on to a cabinet member, you know, there's a lot of cabinet members. Everybody from, you know, James Madison was Secretary of State. There's a lot of cabinet members that could run. And so I was sitting thinking, you know, what cabinet member could I get to run? And I thought, well, the only one I could think of that came to mind was Norman Mineta, because he was the Transportation Secretary. So someone might want to draft Norman Mineta. And, you know, if he'd be flattered, oh, you know, someone wants to be president, you know, he'd probably sign up on that. Then if you've been a head of a federal agency, George Bush Sr., what was he? He was CIA. So because of that, you guys could get and draft Janet Napolitano. And if you draft Janet Napolitano, then the respect and the mutual consideration is really going to have to be there, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to have a problem with big systems. And this comes up to the quote. Once we become a delegate, we have to sign a pledge to conduct ourselves with respect for opposing views to find common ground. So when we pull these candidates in, like Janet Napolitano, we got to respect them all, even when we go through the airport. Okay. Yes.
Does it include military generals?
It doesn't right now, but it will in 3 more categories. So now we come to governors. There's been a lot of governors out there. Can any of you think of any governors you should draft?
Well, Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin is one. If you drafted Sarah Palin, there would be that act alone would bring in 100,000 supporters into America's Elect. And what I plan on doing is I'm going to do draft candidates for all sorts of people, whether I like them or don't like them, because the purpose is to get people to join this system. And you may like Sarah Palin, you may not like Sarah Palin, but you should like the hundreds of thousands of people, followers that would look into the website because she's drafted. Then the mayor of the largest 100 cities. Who's been mayors? What presidents have been mayors in the past? Anybody know your history?
Giuliani.
What presidents have been mayors? Was he? Okay. You have, I didn't see that in that list, but you had Andrew Johnson, who was mayor of Greenville, Tennessee. And so I think he was the better choice. But so in any event, what mayors can you get? Giuliani, Bloomberg, and there is actually a minor presidential candidate right now who is governor of Salt Lake City. He's running for office. That's some little candidate. I was looking through and I found his name. His name is Rocky Anderson.
Rocky Balboa.
So someone should draft him. He'd be flattered. Okay. Then, if you're the chairman or the president of a CEO of a company with 1,000 or more employees, and so this comes up with, I was thinking, well, what about Donald Trump?
Hey, how about Clint Eastwood?
Carmel is one of the 100 largest cities in America that you got it. If not, he's going to have to go through the same qualifying process as our candidate here on the front row. But I was thinking about Donald Trump. Is he a CEO of a company that has 1,000 more employees? He owns a lot of different businesses, a lot of different limited liability companies, a lot of different corporations. I bet none of them have 1,000 employees. So he might not automatically qualify. But would he be approved in the final analysis? Most probably. Let's take, for example, Patrick Buchanan. Patrick Buchanan is well known. He's run for president many times over, but he was a speechwriter for Nixon, but he did not hold any of these qualifications. His sister, Babe Buchanan, did. She was Reagan's Secretary of the Treasury. So we'll get to that process a little while later, but if you want to draft a Donald Trump or if you want to draft a Patrick Buchanan, you're going to have to go through an additional 2 different qualifying procedures, one through clicks or likes on the internet, and one by approval by the candidate selection committee or certification committee.
Quick,
Yes.
Can it be CEO or can it be president of board
It
of directors?
says chairman, CEO, or president. And so, if you, for example, probably not Donald Trump, he's probably just the owner. He probably has a CEO, he probably has a president. He's probably none of those things, because it was you don't have a chairman, actually, if you're a limited liability company. You just get member managed. So there could be some tricky things that have to sort out, but they're not big issues. Yes?
What are the other rules behind CEOs being part of this?
Well, you have to have been CEO of a company with 1,000 or more employees. And so that's because of, you know, I didn't write down which presidents in the past have had 1,000 or more employees. You know, I can't think of any. But that's the only requirement. President of a large corporation.
That CEO?
It has to be a U.S.-based company and a day. It doesn't say how long.
So that opens it up to, you know, people just doing switches to automatically qualify.
Totally.
Yeah, I guess it should
Whatever
be.
you want to do.
Could be if the shareholders will allow that kind of shenanigans going on.
Corruption
The
is
Securities
okay.
Exchange Commission will allow that kind of shenanigans to go on, possibly. Yes?
Exactly what planning community created these arbitrary rules?
I'll go into that a little bit later.
Okay.
Yes?
What if somebody was a CEO of more than one company and collectively they reached that thing? But
That's why I used Donald Trump for an example. It does not say in the bylaws. Most probably it will be approved. And he might even not have to go through the extra clicks. But strictly according to the rules and the bylaws, if collectively it's 1,000 employees, that doesn't count. It's got to be a president or CEO of a company with 1,000 or more employees. Then the next one is you had to be the president of a national labor union with 100,000 or more members. And I can think of 2 presidents of labor unions of 100,000 or more, because I was told what they are. I didn't know their name until Scott told me who they are. But you could draft Mary Kay Henry, who's SEIU president, or you could draft Rick Trumka. Yes?
Do interim positions, like interim mayor, interim position affiliated to those qualify, even though they meet the qualifications?
I would say that they would not qualify.
Okay.
And then now here we get to military officers who has obtained a flag rank. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Military officers. Like there have been a lot of generals. What generals have been presidents? Eisenhower, Grant, all those. So that was someone had bannered about the name Colin Powell. Someone should draft Colin Powell, and that'll bring a lot of people in. But that means you have to be a flag rank officer. And I have not been in the military, and I've lived 57 years, and I never knew what a flag rank officer meant. And I learned something of that. Who knows what a flag rank officer is? Yes?
So it's a flag rank officer is when it's a 1-star through a 5-star officer. So it's your lowest admiral to your highest admiral, or lowest general officer to the highest general officer. They call it a flag officer because they actually have a flag that they bring in during formal ceremonies that they bring in. So that's why they call them flag officers.
Yeah, and it shows, I guess, where they're stationed, because they have a flag at where they're stationed. And also, I read this on Wikipedia, so it's got to be accurate. It said that it generally requires Senate confirmation. Just like, and so nowadays, no one I don't have much time. Oh, what? Okay, I'll hurry up right up. Okay, then, Ambassador Alan Keyes always runs for president. Someone should draft Alan Keyes, and then president of a university with 4,000 or more students. What presidents have been heads of universities?
Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson was Princeton. Eisenhower was Columbia. But so in any event, those are the procedures to be automatically qualified. Yes.
It has to be directly a university, or it can be any college?
It has to be a U.S.-based university with 4,000 or more students. So those of you who are from the University of Washington, from Seattle, you could do Michael K. Young.
He was also ambassador level under one of the Bushes, so you could draft him. But so that in any event, I have prepared sample draft committee regulations. Things that, can you pass these out to everybody? You can take this and follow this example exactly, just change the names, and you can have your own draft committee and put it out there. But now I want, and the reason why I did a candidate who's running for the Constitution Party, because he was a congressman and he automatically qualifies, and so I just used his as an example. Now we get to the most polemic section. We're going to talk about candidates who are provisionally qualified. And there's a two-tier qualification for that. First of all, we know that the third category, you're disqualified if you don't meet the constitutional provisions or if you've ever been removed from office or convicted of a crime. For example, James Traficant. He can't serve because he was indicted in prison out of Congress. And George Hanson was the same way. So no person in office? I guess not, yes.
When you say crime, are you talking about misdemeanor, felony? What's the...
I was talking that over with management. It just says crime. And they're going to have to get clarification. For example, if you turned out for Occupy Wall Street and you got convicted of a misdemeanor of disturbing the peace, according to the bylaws, you'd be disqualified. Or if you had a DUI, you would be disqualified. So no Kennedy could run. If that was the situation.
Or no Bush.
Ethics violation. So Charlie Rangel, would that
okay, if you were removed from office, you would be disqualified. But if you were merely censured, you would not be disqualified.
So Newt Gingrich.
Okay. All right. So in any event, now I want to talk about the issue of provisional qualifications. If you've never been a senator, you've never been an ambassador, you don't have a flag, then you're going to be provisionally qualified. And you have to get more clicks, more likes. And you brought out the number. It was 5,000, it was 10,000, was 50,000 years ago it is. You have to get 50,000 likes, which if we get millions of people in here, that's not going to be a problem because you can like more than one person. Yes?
Are we talking about Facebook?
We're talking about clicking online. So I think you probably have to go through all of the questionnaire, become registered, and then you can just like as many as you want. You can like everybody, you can like nobody. And then you have to get, in 10 states, you have to get
10,005 states, wasn't
it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's 10 states. If it's 50,000 that you're doing, I believe it's 10 states, 5,000. I'll pull it out.
Otherwise, it's 10 states, 1,000, or 10 states, 5,000.
Right.
That's the difference. Okay, all right. They're telling me to get down. All right, this is the last issue. But the other barrier, the most extreme barrier that you, David, and you will have to face is that you have to be approved by the candidate confirmation committee, certification committee, and they want you to have a similar background to what a presidential candidate has had in the past. So I think that one fellow by the name of Merlin Miller, he wanted to be approved, and so I drafted up something that you could draft for him to be approved. I don't think he's going to qualify. I don't think you're going to qualify, and I don't think you're going to qualify. But
why is he here?
I'm just giving you. I'm not a decision maker. I'm only giving a speech.
You're just the messenger. I got that.
Yeah. And
Who made the message?
There goes roll in. Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I can't spend much time because we want it to be done. But the fact is, that it was decided by management, and it's totally legitimate that you only want candidates who meet the qualifications. And so, if someone has spent his whole life just working as at a job, like a lawyer, someone just meet as a lawyer, I wouldn't qualify. And it makes sense to me, but that's a policy decision. Okay, yes.
So how is that like a part of a meritocracy and not a part of an aristocracy?
Thank you.
So
Well,
I think I can interject here. Part of it is going to be that certainly Bill here, while he has done a fantastic job here, he's not part of the committee that's going to be approving people. So This is kind of just conjecture.
Sure.
And the opinion of a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm just saying, someone.
No, very good lawyer.
I just think objective. I think Merlin Miller wanted me to submit everything, so that's how I gave a draft letter how you could submit it to request it. But if he were asking me as a lawyer, do you think this will pass? I say no. And that's just my professional opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they want everybody to do it. They'll approve everybody. Okay, that's all that I have.
Guys, I'm gonna just speak up because I've been involved in American Select for a long time. I will actually tell you that you will be certified as a candidate.
Oh,
it's effectively called.
More likely.
Honestly, it's called the Lady Gaga rule. Honestly, internally, which means that with very rare exceptions, and those exceptions are because if we didn't have that in place, that's what all we hear is, oh, so Lady Gaga can be the rule. I've sat in candidate briefings, I've sat with the candidate briefer, and I'm telling you right now, that would be the case. That's the bar to entry. I don't know where you read it differently.
No, I didn't read it. I just was using my logic, thinking what I would do. So I have no background.
I will fundamentally tell you that I've seen this question asked and answered a lot of times by management, who you said did create these rules, and that is not the case.
So I don't know at all.
Everything else you said is 100% accurate.
So as an example, right, if Ashton Kutcher has 4 million Twitter followers or something, says, I'm running for president and I want to get drafted and I'm going to send out a tweet, like, Ashton Kutcher...
He's not 35.
Probably, first of all, he's not 35. Actually, can't. Somewhere at 30. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point being is, like, you're not going to be able to mobilize a bunch of people just because you're famous. Sure. And you're, whatever.
So like Stephen Colbert?
I've heard George Clooney thrown out. That's the name I've heard. He would actually probably be approved. Yeah, he honestly, legitimately would. It would take a tremendous... I think it would take somebody that was honestly convicted of a crime. I mean, somebody that, like, was demonstrably... not the case. And keep in mind also, this can be overruled by the delegate base, by a simple majority of the delegate base. So let's just say it was Ashton Kutcher and he is 35, and a bunch of stodgy men who are on the cancer certification committee said, no, what he did to me was terrible. We're not gonna allow him through. Still, it would be overruled. So I actually, everything else, I listened to everything else you said. You're right on everything else, but like Merlin would be certified, because that's the whole point of the two-tiered system. Is that by getting the extra clicks, you're basically establishing the ability to do it.
In the bylaws, it says it's like they've lowered it down to a 50% threshold to overrule that. Is that 50% of everybody that's ever gone through?
It's 50% of certified delegates, meaning folks that have gone through the verification process, et cetera. So if you had a friend that just signed up because you told him to, but then he's never even thought about it again, that won't get counted against it. Because the theory being that anybody who goes through the verification process is likely going to be an active delegate. I mean, it's actually, you're not really a delegate until you go through the verification process. So it's a simple majority of delegates.
And the verification process part hasn't been...
It's going. It's going right now.
I just haven't done it.
Can the bylaws be altered at any point?
They still can. They have been multiple times already.
Where is the state, how the bylaws have altered?
They have a couple discussion sessions on the website, but also largely, so today, and I actually legitimately don't know if there'll ever be a different mechanism for it. Largely, the alterations that have been made to the bylaws have been made by emails and comments that come in from everybody.
Would Stephen Colbert qualify as a candidate?
I would assume so, based on our rules, yes. Not as a conditionally qualified.
Yeah,
not
as
as
a
an
contingently qualified.
Yeah. Sure, I'll do that. I'll cover that really quickly because I can answer the question anyways. Next week, the website will be unveiled with full candidate functionality, et cetera, and then the draft process will open up. Yeah.
How do we submit the petitions that I prepare if they want to change those? Are you gonna like scan them in and email them?
So yes, you can do that. Also, what you'll see next week, I'm not 100% certain what it looks like because I actually haven't seen it, but a lot of that stuff will be done online form-based from here on out. So because you've already done the legwork, yes, you can submit it.
Right, and there was a provision required that the document had to be notarized. I noticed you've taken that out.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you can't do it all. You can't do something.
Yes, correct. That's probably why they took that out. Okay. Did I answer your question back there? That's right. Okay. Sorry, I heard that conversation. I just wanted to jump in and just clarify because it's been an alternate process, a moving process, and so, and frankly, had I not sat in with the candidate brief, I might not have known that. It hasn't been articulated very well. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the next speaker is going to be Chris McAllister. He's from Eugene, Oregon. He's Springfield. Very close to Eugene, Oregon. And he's going to do a talk on social media.
Hello everybody, I'll keep this really short, just a couple of housekeeping things. My name is spelled like that, so if you add me on Facebook or you see me on the forums, that's who I am. So I'm on the feedback forum for American Flag. Okay, that's why I have this gentleman here who can write a lot clearer than I can. I put a disclaimer up here. I am a typer, not a calligrapher. So it's KRISMC capital ALISTER. Now,
it's okay. We'll find each other later.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't find it right now.
The agenda is misspelled.
Oh, it is.
So that's why I said housekeeping. Okay, so pretty much this presentation can be used for anything. It applies to Americans elect because, well, that's where we're here, that's where we're at. This can be implemented anywhere. That's the cool thing about technology. If you learn how to use the basics, you can apply it to almost anything that you want to. So just out of curiosity, how many people are familiar with the term social networking? Okay, pretty good amount. So like, what are some examples that we use for social networking? Just call it out. Facebook, Twitter. Would you like to write down some of these? Sure. Thanks. Google Talk, Google Plus, Facebook, MySpace, or Twitter. AOL. AOL? MySpace is still relevant to an extent.
Ning.
Ning. Okay. Exactly. There's a couple things that that kind of separates the social network. We have what I call pay to play, which like Ning is an example now. It was free, but we are, at least the way it was proposed to me, is we're trying to outreach to more people. And the reason I like to avoid pay to play, because you can reach a lot more people if you can spread it out and you're not required to have to fork over the money just to have a conversation. Okay? Now, apparently I had an identifier, so ignore that error. So pretty much we see what we have. Now we also have the Get Satisfaction forum on the website, which has totally turned a different way. It looked to be originally a technical forum for managing the website, giving feedback. Oh, my link won't work. Oh, I get emails from this guy. I don't know where they're coming from. So that's what it kind of turned into. That's what it was. But it kind of turned into this conversation where people, I have questions. I need answers. And so people have started to have conversations on a technical forum. So anywhere you get a group of people talking, you can have conversations. Will it go anywhere? Well, that's up to the people talking. So part of the thing we have to do is we have to see what our resources are, identify the people. When we're trying to reach people, we either have teams, which like this would be considered quote unquote team. You want to get preferences and needs. Okay, so like if you need pictures, if you need text, if you need to be able to forward links or do mass mailings. All these things are things that team members need to consider if you're trying to outreach to people. Another thing that you need to do is if you're trying to reach your audience, you have to find out what people are interested in. If someone doesn't want to have a wall of text, which is just no spacing, no indentation, just people look at it, a lot of bylaws are written in the wall of text because they don't want you to read it. So like you want to make your format at least readable and appealing to the groups that you're trying to reach. MySpace really got the kids going because they like music, they like videos, they like being able to share pictures with their friends. So ultimately you have to find out what your team needs and prefers, what your audience needs and prefers, and what's available to you. If you don't have a budget, a pay-to-play is not an option. Am I talking too fast, Jake?
No, keep going.
Okay. So once we identify our team and we identify our audience, next thing we need to do is look at the pros and cons on everything that we have decided as possibilities. Let's see here. Twitter, you got 140 characters. I can't talk that small. I'm sorry. Therefore, I don't really use Twitter that much. I understand that it has great capabilities. If you want to use your cell phones, everybody has cell phones these days, it seems like. So that's a means that you can outreach to people who are out on the street. If you need to have a complex discussion about rules or potential ideas, Twitter is not really your format. Facebook, a lot of people like it because you can share with friends, you can share with organizations, you can share with musicians even. Does it meet our cause? Possibly. What are some of the things that Facebook has to offer? Anybody really extensive Facebook user here? Okay, what do you like about Facebook?
It has a decent API.
Okay, you want to talk about that?
So you can make your own applications. So for instance, if you want to make an American Select Facebook app, that would automatically suggest candidates that you like to your friends. You could potentially build one.
Right. Okay, so that adaptability, that kind of ability to play in the sandbox, so to speak, build your own castles, make that social network what you need for your group, whether it's for your team or whether it's for your audience. Now, another thing is organizing, because you got your pros and your cons. Like